my gosh, it looks so decadent. Look at that pieces of chocolate. Today we're gonna be making double chocolate zucchini bread, and it's gonna be delicious. Anything with chocolate is, of course. So what I'm gonna do is walk through all of our ingredients and some of the equipment we're gonna need. This is a recipe that's baked, meaning it's gonna go in the oven. So before we even begin, if you're cooking with me at home, I need you to go and set your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're not sure how to do that, make sure to get an adult in your house. When we preheat the oven, it means that we're getting it nice and warm so that by the time we've made the batter for our bread, the oven is gonna be hot enough for us to put it in, and then it's gonna cook for about 50 minutes and then be ready for us to give it a taste. So whenever I'm baking anything, I like to divide my ingredients into the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. And this basically means what it sounds like. So anything that's gonna be dry to the touch, like our flour, our baking powder, that's a dry ingredient. I have that over here. And then on this side, these are the wet ingredients. They're things that are more liquidy. So it's things like our eggs, our oil. Today we're gonna use some yogurt. Those are considered our wet ingredients. So we mix them separately, and then we're gonna add them all together at the end. But before we go ahead with our ingredients, I wanna go ahead and get my pan ready. So this is a loaf pan. It's 9 inches long and about 5 inches wide. And this is what we're gonna put our batter into and then put it in the oven so that it bakes and rises and gets nice and fluffy. And if you've cooked with me before, you know that it's super important to make a non-stick surface. Now what does that mean? That means that we put some sort of coating in our pan so that the bread doesn't stick. That way when it's done, we can just pop out the bread and it doesn't get all stuck on the sides. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is grab a non-stick baking spray. That's this stuff right here. And I'm gonna give my pan a good spray. Beautiful. So you just wanna see that basically every little surface in here is coated. That's how we know we're good to go. If you don't have a spray like this, you could put in a little oil or melted butter and move it around with your hands. So let's go ahead and put our pan to the side. And the next thing we're gonna do is our zucchini. So what vegetable family is the zucchini a part of? Zucchini is actually a squash. It's what we call a summer squash, and it grows in the summertime, just as the name suggests. And it's in the same family as things like our pumpkin, our butternut squash, our kabocha. It's just that it grows in the summertime and it's a lot more pleasant to eat raw than, say, a pumpkin. And what we need to do is grate our zucchini. So grating is gonna create these thin little strips, and it's gonna bring a lot of moisture to our bread. So breads are really delicious when, you know, they're soft, they have a lot of flavor, they're tender. That's what the zucchini is gonna do, because the zucchini has a lot of its own water. So first I'm just gonna cut off the little end of our zucchini. This was the part where it attached to the plant, and I'm just gonna put that to the side. All right, and then I'm basically done with my knife, so I'll get rid of that. And then I need to grab this tool here. This is called a box grater. And I'm gonna get a big bowl and a little towel. We're gonna use this towel in just a minute, but let's start with our zucchini. So I just simply put my box grater into a big bowl, grab the zucchini at the top, and just move it up and down the grater like this. And even though this grater seems pretty simple, it still is quite sharp. So we need to make sure that our hands and our fingers don't get anywhere near these little grooves in the box grater, because I've done it before and it hurts. You can kind of scrape up your knuckles and that doesn't feel nice. So this is what our zucchini is gonna look like. Just all these little pieces of it. We don't even have to take the skin off because it's just gonna blend in with everything else. And remember, the skin is really high in what we call fiber. Fiber is that thing that helps our digestion. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish grating these 2 zucchini, and then we'll move on to our other ingredients. All right, so I've grated about 2 medium zucchinis. This might be a little bit more than we need. We're gonna need about 1.5 cups of our zucchini. But what I'm gonna do is transfer the zucchini to my colander. This is the thing with all the little holes that you might use for draining pasta. I'm gonna put the zucchini into my colander because even though we're gonna want that zucchini to be a little bit wet, we want some of the water from the zucchini to drain out so that it doesn't make our bread too soggy. So while we get the rest of our ingredients together, I'm going to just put this to the side. Okay, so now we're gonna work on our dry ingredients. So the next few ingredients, we're gonna do 1/2 cup of each. So remember, 1/2 cup is gonna be 1/2 of a full cup. So the first thing I'm gonna work with is some whole wheat flour. So when I'm measuring my whole wheat flour, what I like to do is take a spoon and actually just gently spoon it into my measuring cup here. That way I'm not packing the flour down and I know I'm getting an accurate 1/2 measurement. And if you spill a little bit like I'm doing here on my board, that's perfectly fine. That's what baking is all about. So now I'm just using the back of my spoon, the handle part, to kind of even it out and get this really nice clean 1/2 measurement. So that's 1/2 of whole wheat flour that goes right into our bowl. And then I'm gonna move on to our regular flour. So this is just the regular white flour. And what do you think the benefit of using 1/2 whole wheat flour might be? Remember, our whole grains are the ones that are gonna be rich in fiber and also different vitamins and minerals that are really good for our body. So this is such a flavorful bread with all the chocolate we're gonna add, that zucchini, that we're not even gonna know that it's 1/2 whole wheat flour, but we're gonna get all the benefits from it. So that's our regular flour, done with that. And then this ingredient here I have, this is called cocoa powder. So this is from the same plant that our chocolate is made from. So it's the cocoa bean. They've removed some of the natural fat that's in a cocoa bean, and then they grind it up, and that's how we get this powder. So actually this cocoa powder, it doesn't have any sugar. We're gonna add our own sugar later. It just has the beautiful chocolatey flavor. So that's 1/2 of our cocoa powder going right in. All right, now I can put some of these measurement tools to the side. Get rid of our cocoa powder. All right, and now the last of our dry ingredients, I already mixed them up for you here, but this is gonna be our baking soda, our baking powder, and our salt. And so these ingredients, especially the baking soda and the baking powder, that's what's gonna make our bread rise. So if we didn't add those, we would basically get pancake bread. So it's super important to add those. And then I'm just gonna take my whisk measurement and I'm gonna whisk it all up so it's one color. Everything is evenly distributed. This is a really important step to do so that when we add our wet ingredients, everything is mixed evenly. We don't wanna find one big clump of salt or cocoa powder in the end in our bread, right? All right, so that's all we need there. We can put some of these things to the side while we work on our wet ingredients. So one more bowl, and I'm gonna start with my eggs. So this is just 2 regular eggs. I'm gonna crack them and whisk them up. All right, perfect. So our eggs are nice and whisked, just as if we were making scrambled eggs. Put these things to the side. Next, I'm gonna do my vegetable oil. So this is gonna be 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Put that right in. And then another 1/4 cup, so 1/4 of a cup of Greek yogurt. This is plain Greek yogurt, doesn't have any flavoring in it. Get that right in there. And then probably your second most favorite part of this recipe, aside from the chocolate chips, this is maple syrup. We could use maple syrup, we could use honey, we could also just use regular sugar. We're gonna do 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup. Okay. And then last but not least, some vanilla extract. This isn't totally necessary, but it just adds a really nice extra flavor. A lot of baked goods have vanilla extract in them. It's very common. So I'm doing 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then what we need to do is just stir everything around until it's mixed really well. And then we're gonna add this to our wet ingredients. All right, so now that our wet ingredients are all nice and mixed up in here, it's time to add them to our dry ingredients that we already prepared. So I've got that bowl right over here, and I'm gonna put my whisk to the side and switch to a different tool. For this next part, I like to use what's called a rubber spatula, but any sort of mixing spoon would work well too. So I'm gonna pour this wet ingredients right into our dry, and just make sure we get every last bit there. That's why this rubber spatula is such a great tool, because it really helps you get every last bit. All right, and then I'm just gonna give this a gentle mix. And the other good tip about baking is that you only wanna mix your wet and dry ingredients together until they've just combined. Because when you overmix things, that's when you get what's called a tough baked good. So a tough baked good is gonna be like something that you chew on forever and ever, and it just never gets any softer. So we wanna try to avoid that. So I'm just gently mixing these around until the dry ingredients have absorbed most of our wet ingredients. And I'm gonna go back to my grated zucchini. So remember, we only need about 1.5 cups of this. So it's been resting in my colander. I have a dry and clean kitchen towel here. We're just gonna use this to absorb any last moisture from the zucchini. So my 1 cup measurement, I'm just gonna fill that up with some zucchini. There we go. And then my 1/2 measurement. This is 1.5 cups. Looks like I'm gonna have to make a double batch of this bread because I got plenty of zucchini left. So you probably only really need 1 medium zucchini for this. So I'm just gonna give this a little pat. Again, we're not trying to absorb all the moisture out, but just a little bit. All right, so now that our zucchini is in our bowl, I'm gonna start to mix this around a little bit, just trying to incorporate it all throughout our batter. And our very final ingredient is gonna be some chocolate chips. So it's gonna be about 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. I got these all measured out right here, so let's pour those in. Then we can just mix everything together. All right, so once you feel like your zucchini and chocolate chips are mixed around evenly, that's when we're gonna grab the pan we greased before and get it ready for the oven. So I have my pan that we sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. I always put it on a baking sheet because you know, maybe something funky will go on in the oven, and if it starts exploding or overflowing, trust me, you don't want that all on the bottom of your oven. This is gonna catch it. So always a good idea to do that. And then I'm gonna, again, use that rubber spatula just to get it all the batter in there. And once we have our batter in there, I'll smooth down the top a little bit. But first, let's just make sure it all gets inside. Get every last bit. I don't want to miss any of that chocolate. Okay. Perfect. All right, so it's in our pan, and now I'm just using the rubber spatula to kind of mix it. Sorry, not mix it, I should say even it out a little bit so that we have one even layer on our pan. Remember, we've preheated that oven to we've preheated that oven to 350 degrees, and we're gonna put this in. It's gonna need about 45 to 55 minutes, depends on your oven, but we'll know when it's ready. We're gonna stick either a wooden skewer or a knife into the center, and when that comes out clean with no batter on it. That's how we know it's ready to go. So come with me over to the oven. I'm gonna pop it in. So I'm up here on the 6th floor roof of the same building that Essex Market is in. Our market is right below here. And this is a beautiful, amazing farm that is run by the folks at Project Eats. They have urban farms all over the city. This is their 2nd year growing up on this one. And it's incredible because we can see how all of our fruits and vegetables come to us right here. And what I want to show you today is how some of our zucchini is growing. So come with me over here. So everything you just walked past, these are all zucchini plants. They're growing right here in these what we call raised beds with soil. They've just been sprayed with a little bit of water to try to keep them hydrated on a hot day like today. And zucchini plants are what we call vine plants. So they have these big sections right here, but then they like to spread out horizontally. So I just kind of poke through the leaves here to see what we got growing. Their leaves are actually a little bit prickly, which is interesting. So I'm going to try to pull some of these leaves apart, and you can see there's a beautiful little squash right here. Ooh, here's a good one right in here. See this in here? I got to be gentle with it. So we got a big one of our zucchinis here. This is green, just like the one we were cooking with, but they also come in yellow, even a yellow and green striped, which is really beautiful. So what's going to happen here is the zucchini is growing off of the plant, and then this little flower has started to dry up, but you can see in this one over here. So this little guy, he's got a flower. He attached to the plant here, and then it's got this beautiful flower that blooms. And a lot of cultures actually like to eat this flower. So they'll remove it from the zucchini, and then they might saute it. In Mexican culture, they like to put them in quesadillas. Italians like to stuff the inside with cheese and then fry them. So they're really delicious. And then this was a little bit of a baby one, but we got a little zucchini right here. And this is actually the fruit of the plant. And I know that sounds funny because we think of zucchini as a vegetable, but in fact this is the fruit, because when we open it, it has all those little seeds. And what the plant wants to do is it wants the zucchini to go on the ground and spread its seeds into the soil so that it can create more plants. So we have our beautiful bread here. It's just come out of the oven and then cooled on the stovetop for about 10 or 15 minutes. And what I'm gonna do now is run a knife along all of the edges just to help it kind of release from our pan. So I'm just gonna flip it out. There it comes out, nice and easy because we greased our pan well, and I don't know if you can see, but there's steam coming off of the bread because it's still a little warm, which is going to be amazing for flavor. So let me go ahead and cut a few slices here. Oh yeah, my gosh, nothing better than a warm baked good, am I right? So comforting. All right, so I'm just gonna finally got a little plate here. Just gonna put a few slices for us to see. Wow, I can't wait to share this with the people I live with. Beautiful. So it's still nice and moist, not too dry, but it's holding together. I can see all our little pieces of chocolate chip and even a little bit of zucchini. Now let's go ahead, best part, I get to give it a little taste. Still warm, just so amazing. My gosh, it looks so decadent. Look at that piece of chocolate. Yum. And it's healthy for us too. It's got the whole wheat flour and the zucchini to give us fiber, some vitamins and minerals. So you can really feel good about eating this. It's delicious. All right, thank you so much for joining us today on Fresh Bites for Kids. I look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, you can find all the recipes that we're doing here at ESSEXMARKET.NYC/FreshBites. See you next time.